If your car's AC is blowing weak air, warm air, or taking too long to cool, you need to stop ignoring it, because this is exactly how small AC problems turn into expensive repairs. Most drivers wait too long, assume it is nothing serious, and keep using the system until the damage gets worse. By the time they finally take it seriously, the bill is no longer small. In this video, I'm breaking down 10 AC myths that keep drivers wasting money, missing the real warning signs, and slowly making their cooling problem worse. Stick around to the end, because I'll also reveal 2 mistakes that can quietly push your AC system toward a repair bill of $2,000 or more. Number 10 is to clean the condenser. One of the first things worth checking is the condenser. Your car's air conditioner works a lot like a regular home unit. It pulls heat out so the air blowing into the cabin can feel cold, and the condenser is a huge part of making that happen. When the system stops cooling properly, a lot of people assume something expensive has gone bad. Sometimes the condenser is not damaged at all, it is just covered in junk. Because it sits right at the front of the car, it gets blasted with dirt, road grime, and bugs every time you drive. Those bugs can bake onto the surface from the heat, and once that layer builds up, the condenser cannot release heat the way it should. When that happens, the air inside the car does not get as cold, and the compressor has to work a lot harder to make up for it. If that compressor fails, you could be looking at a repair bill around $1,200. To avoid that, let the car cool down first so you are not working around hot metal. Then use medium water pressure to wash off as much debris as possible. After that, go back with a brush and loosen anything still stuck to the fins. Once it is clean, let it dry completely before using the AC again. Number 9 is to clean the AC intake. Another area people forget about is the AC intake near the base of the windshield. Cleaning this helps the system work better, but it also helps make sure the air coming into the cabin is not full of nasty buildup. That intake is one of the places where outside air enters the system, and if you park under trees a lot or spend time driving in dusty areas, leaves and debris can pile up there fast. If that material sits there long enough, it starts holding moisture. And that is exactly the kind of dark, damp space where mold and bacteria like to grow. So if your AC smells bad and the airflow feels weak, this is one of the first places you should inspect. If the cabin smells normal, you may only need to brush away the visible debris and clear the openings. But if there is a musty smell, you need to go a step further. Roll the windows down, remove the cabin air filter, turn the fan on low, and spray a disinfectant like Lysol into the intake, so the system pulls it through the plenum and the vents. That gives you a much better shot at clearing out the bacteria instead of letting it keep circulating every time you switch the air on. Number 8 is to let the hot air out. A lot of people make the same mistake on a hot day. They start the car, turn on the AC, and let it sit there running for 10 or 15 minutes before they get in. It does cool the car down, but it is one of the least efficient ways to do it. You burn extra fuel, and you put unnecessary strain on the compressor while the cabin is still packed with trapped heat. A smarter approach is to get in the car, roll all the windows down, and turn the AC to the coldest setting right away. Since the system takes a few seconds to really begin cooling, use those first moments to dump all that hot air out of the cabin. Keep the windows down for about 15 seconds, then crank the fan up to full speed. As the interior starts cooling off, roll up the front windows first and leave the rear ones open for a few more seconds. Then close the back windows too. It is a simple routine, but it helps the car cool faster without making the system work harder than it has to. Number 7 is to use the recirculation button. This is one of the most useful buttons in your car and also one of the most misunderstood. A lot of drivers either ignore it completely or do not really know what it does. On a hot day, your AC normally has to keep pulling in outside air and cooling it down. That becomes a lot harder when the air outside is already scorching. The recirculation button changes that by reusing the air that is already inside the cabin. Since that air is already cooler than the air outside, the system can lower the temperature faster and with less effort. That is the biggest reason this button is so helpful in the summer. It can also help block outside fumes and bad smells, especially when you are stuck in traffic with other cars pumping hot exhaust around you. On top of that, it can reduce the load on the HVAC system, which may help save fuel because the AC does not have to fight against fresh waves of hot air nonstop. The downside is that it is not always the best choice when you have people riding in the back and want stronger airflow moving through the entire cabin. Number 6 is to replace the cabin air filter. This is another simple fix that can make a bigger difference than most people expect. The cabin air filter is there to trap dust, pollen, pollution, odors, and little bits of debris before they make it into the air you breathe. Over time, that filter gets packed with dirt, and once it does, airflow starts dropping. When airflow drops, the AC has to work harder just to push air through the system, and the cabin does not cool down the way it should. A dirty filter can also become a breeding ground for mold and bacteria, which makes the whole problem even worse. Most carbon cabin filters should be replaced every 12,000 to 15,000 miles. A lot of people pay a shop to do it, but on many modern cars, the filter sits right behind the glove box and can be changed at home in just a few minutes. If it costs you around $20 a year and makes the air colder and cleaner, that is money well spent. Number 5 is park in the shade or use a windshield sunshade. A lot of drivers underestimate how brutally hot the inside of a car can get. Even when the weather outside seems manageable, the cabin temperature can climb fast once the car is sitting in the sun. If it is 80 degrees outside, the inside of the car can rise to around 118 degrees in roughly 40 minutes. That means your AC is not just cooling the air when you get back in. It is trying to fight a full heat trap. The harder it has to work, the more stress you put on the compressor, the more fuel you burn, and the longer it takes before the cabin starts feeling normal again. One of the easiest ways to reduce that load is to park in the shade whenever you can. A windshield sunshade helps too, and it can make a huge difference by knocking the interior temperature down significantly. Put those two habits together, and your AC does not have to spend the first part of every drive trying to rescue the car from oven mode. Number 4 is to recharge the refrigerant. A lot of people do not realize this, but refrigerant does not expire. In a sealed system, it is supposed to stay there. That means if the level is low, something allowed it to escape. The problem is that car AC systems rarely stay perfectly sealed forever. So, over time, small leaks can develop. When that happens, the system may simply need a recharge if the leak is still minor. That is where a lot of drivers get taken advantage of. They go in because the air is not cold enough, and suddenly, they are being pushed toward a much bigger repair than they may actually need. The refrigerant itself can cost less than $10 for a top-up, and a recharge kit for doing it yourself can cost around $40. That is a lot different from paying a shop a few $100s for a basic recharge. If you do it yourself, though, you need to make sure you buy the right refrigerant for your vehicle. For many older cars, that means R134A instead of R1234YF, which is far more expensive. And there is one very common mistake people make during this process that can end up being the exact reason the refrigerant keeps leaking back out. Number 3 is check the coolant. Before blaming the air conditioner, take a look at the coolant level. A lot of people think coolant only matters for engine temperature, but it can affect AC performance too. When coolant drops too low and the engine starts running hot, many vehicles automatically shut off the AC compressor to protect the system. Once that happens, the vents can start pushing warm air instead of cold. So if you have not checked your coolant lately, this is a good time to do it. And since the cooling system plays such a big role in both engine protection and AC performance, it is also worth learning about coolant types, radiator flushes, thermostat issues, and other related problems that can lead to very expensive damage. Number 2 is make sure the cooling fans are working. The next thing to check is the cooling fans. Since the hood is already open, this is the easiest moment to inspect them. Near the front of the car, behind the grille, you have the condenser, and behind the radiator sit the cooling fans, often called radiator fans. Their job is to move air across the condenser so heat can be pulled out of the refrigerant. If one of those fans stops working, the condenser cannot do its job properly, and the air conditioner may stop cooling the way it should. Most cars have 2 fans. If only one is running, the AC may still work for a while, but the system usually will not perform well for long. Testing them is simple. Start the car, turn the air conditioner to the highest setting, and wait about 5 minutes. By that point, both fans should be spinning. And if you do need to replace them, do not assume dealer or OEM parts are the only choice. Because a part priced at several $100s can often be found for under $100 elsewhere. If both fans are working, then move on to the next check. Number 1 is inspect the fan belt. You should also pay close attention to the fan belt, especially if your car has high mileage. This one check can save you from a repair bill that climbs into the thousands. The reason is simple. The belt connects the engine to the compressor. If it starts slipping, the compressor cannot spin at the correct speed, which can reduce cooling performance and even cause the compressor to overheat and fail. To avoid that, inspect the belt regularly. This is the same part many people call the serpentine belt. Look for cracks on the surface and listen for squealing or signs that the belt is slipping or sitting too loose. If it shows those warning signs, replace it before it causes bigger damage. A new belt costs far less than a new compressor. Costly mistake 1, leaving the AC off for weeks. Now let's get into 2 things you should avoid doing with your air conditioning system. The first is going weeks without turning it on. A lot of drivers make this choice to save money, especially when fuel prices are high. Driving with the windows down may seem like the cheaper option, but keeping the AC unused for long stretches can create expensive problems. When the system sits too long, the seals can dry out and begin leaking. On top of that, metal parts inside the compressor can start to rust from lack of use. The safer habit is to run your air conditioner for at least a few minutes every week, no matter the season. Costly mistake 2, pointing the vents directly at yourself. The second mistake is aiming the vents straight at your body. It may feel like the fastest way to cool down because the cold air hits your face right away, but it is not the most efficient way to cool the entire cabin. When the airflow stays focused on one person, it takes longer for the cold air to spread through the car, which can waste fuel. It can also leave your skin and neck feeling dry from the constant blast of cold air. A better setup is to direct the center vents upward toward the roof and point the side vents toward the windows so the air can circulate more evenly across the interior. Extra AC and cooling system advice? Following these tips can help you avoid major repair bills, keep the cabin cooler, and use less fuel at the same time. It can also improve the air inside the car by reducing conditions that allow bacteria to build up. If you liked this video, hit like and subscribe for more car care tips and maintenance.